It's October 2022. A father finishes dropping his kids off at a local suburban school. It is the kind of quiet morning routine that millions of families go through every single day. But moments later, that ordinary life vanishes. 57-year-old Daniel Duggan is suddenly surrounded and arrested in a supermarket parking lot in the regional city of Orange in New South Wales. The arrest was made at the request of the United States government. Duggan now faces the prospect of spending the next 65 years in an American prison. In a single morning, international law enforcement pulled a father away from his children and placed his future in the hands of a foreign legal system. The United States alleges that Duggan broke strict arms trafficking laws. They claim he provided illegal military training to Chinese fighter pilots. According to U.S. court documents, this training didn't happen in America or China. The claim states he trained these forces in South Africa between 2010 and 2012 without ever receiving U.S. permission. The jurisdiction here is incredibly complex. Duggan is a former United States Marine pilot, but he formally renounced his American citizenship years ago. Today, he is legally an Australian citizen. Duggan now finds himself caught between the competing interests of two global superpowers. Duggan vehemently denies all the claims against him and immediately launched a legal fight to block the extradition. To understand his defense, look at these parallel legal scales representing U.S. and Australian law. For an international extradition treaty to activate, the specific crime must exist as a broken law on both scales. This is a requirement called dual criminality. Duggan's lawyers argued that Australia does not have an equivalent law covering the specific American arms trafficking charges leveled against him. Since the Australian scale remains empty, they argued the extradition is legally impossible. But that defense hit a wall at the highest levels of the government. In 2024, Australia's then Attorney General, Mark Dreyfus, officially approved the United States extradition request. A perceived shield in domestic law ultimately crumbled under the weight of an international executive agreement. While the lawyers debated international treaties, Duggan's physical reality was far more immediate. Since that morning in the car park, he has been locked inside a maximum security prison. His wife, Saffron, recently stood outside the court and tallied the cost of that confinement: 1,273 days of terrible trauma for her and their 6 children. This chart tracks their financial cost. Over 1,200 days, the family spent $500,000 fighting the case. Their fight was compromised when the government placed an injunction on their home, legally preventing them from selling the house to fund legal bills. The grueling, years-long bureaucratic procedure has imposed a heavy penalty on the family before a single piece of evidence has been heard in a courtroom. This week, that procedure reached a turning point with a crucial federal court hearing regarding Duggan's appeal. The judge dismissed Duggan's case entirely, effectively removing his final legal shield against removal. To compound the loss, the court added a secondary financial penalty, ordering Duggan to pay the government's legal costs for the appeal. This judicial ruling clears the path for the Australian government to physically hand him over to the United States. Outside the courtroom, Saffron Duggan addressed the press, expressing bitter disappointment and pleading for direct intervention from the Australian government. She maintains that her husband is an ordinary citizen who has broken no Australian law. The legal window is now closing. Duggan has a window of just 28 days to launch a final appeal against the federal court's ruling. The clock is ticking. A family now has mere weeks to attempt to halt a formal extradition process or risk their father being sent to a foreign prison forever.